Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr. This is the On the Stacks podcast.
Oh yeah, whoa, look, they can never keep me down, I'm going, and if I ever fail, just know I'll go again. I never quit, cause I know that every loss may lead to another win. I'm going up.
What happens when storytelling meets law? Join me as I sit down with the Deputy Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Angela Sperrazza, as we peel back the layers of the world of law and the concept of fairness, a principle that is so integral to the profession. We also talk about the cultural history of law, the division in today's society, and the importance of seeing each other as human beings, even when disagreements arise. This episode would not be possible without the support of our sponsors, so please check them out in the show notes. I'm your host, Bill Corcoran Jr., and this is Angela Sperrazza on the Stacks.
I think police officers and prosecutors have this responsibility to say, I'm going to take the stuff that you're putting on me and I'm not going to react. This is going to be the place where we tell you what we can do with it. We're not going to judge you. I'm not going to tell you I'm surprised by it. I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to tell you what your options are. And I think we owe society that when we take our oaths. But in theory, that's what your prosecutor is, right? They're upholding the law for all of us. They're the ones who say you hurt one of our citizens. We're going to tell the story and you guys can judge them, but we're going to be the ones to tell that story. They have a place to come.
This episode is brought to you by Sweat Tent, the pioneers of the portable wood-burning sauna. Did you know that using the sauna 3 to 4 times per week could reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease by up to 50% and make you 60% less likely to experience Alzheimer's disease? That's why I've been a big fan of the sauna for years. But having to go to a crowded gym to do it isn't ideal. And all the at-home options are bulky and expensive. That's why I only use the Sweat Tent for my sauna needs. It's the most storable and affordable wood-burning sauna on the market. It not only takes minutes to set up, but it can reach 200 degrees Fahrenheit in 30 minutes or less. So whether you're enjoying it yourself in your backyard, with friends, or in need of a reliable sauna on the go, Sweat Tent is your best choice for the most portable, storable, and enjoyable outdoor sauna experience. All On the Stacks listeners will receive $100 off when you use code OTS. Visit sweattent.com today to get $100 off your purchase with code OTS at checkout. Again, that's sweattent.com to get $100 off with code OTS. Sweat Tent, helping you fire up your home wellness routine. This episode is brought to you by Burn, the fitness company behind the Today Show approved Burn board. If I'm being honest, working out can be a real chore, especially as a new dad in desperate need of sleep and cardio. Burn is founded by NEPA native Jimmy T. Martin, and his Burn board offers a low-impact core and cardio experience unlike anything I've done before. They have hundreds of on-demand workouts that are great for beginners, seasoned athletes, and out-of-shape podcast hosts who love supporting small businesses. My wife and I use it pretty frequently throughout the week, and it's honestly a great way to burn a ton of calories without burning a ton of cash. Not to mention, it's a great tool for skiers, runners, wrestlers, and hockey players. Jimmy is offering all On the Stacks listeners 15% off when they use the code STACKS15. Visit theburn.com today to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15 at checkout. Again, that's theburn, THEBRRN.com to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15. It's time to get on board today with Burn. This episode is brought to you by Kavanaugh's Grill, one of my favorite places to eat and drink in NEPA. They've got one of the best outdoor patios with 13 TVs and over 20 beers on tap. You can also dine inside at this cozy Irish-style pub where your beer never goes empty. Did I mention how delicious their food is? Their in-house smoked brisket, barbecue ribs, and wings are to die for. So grab your friends and have a drink on me at Kavanaugh's. Mention code STACKS for one free draft beer with purchase of any entree when you dine in. Located at 163 North Main Street in Mountaintop, Kavanaugh's is open at 4 p.m. during the week and 12 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday during football season. Dine in today at Mountaintop's only Irish-style pub. What's up, podcast? It's your host, Bill Corcoran Jr. here in the Blue Door Studio, protected by our friends at Ritchie Security Solutions. Angela Sperrazza, welcome to the On the Stacks podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
I'm excited you're here too, and I have to tell you, like when I was like a kid growing up, I think there was at one point in my life that I was like, you know what? I think I might become a lawyer. And I don't know why. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, yeah, I think I want to be a lawyer. And then I don't know how long it took me to realize that I don't want to be a lawyer. Obviously, I didn't become a lawyer.
Never
now,
too late.
Now I just argue with people on microphones.
Love
here.
it.
Like, so it's kind of close. Like,
It's definitely
it's sort
similar.
sort of similar. You know, like we could still have a debate. You know.
So did you want to be a lawyer, or did someone say to you, "You're an argumentative kid. You should be a lawyer"?
It might have. I don't know. I really don't know. It might have
there's
been
a lot of
that.
that.
It might have been that, but also like I guess like because I'm a competitive person, so like I want to win, and I like to, you know. I guess I don't know if you consider it like arguing, like, but like, you know, like in court you have the back and forth, right? I'm not even using the right terminology because I'm, you know.
You're right. You're good.
Right. Okay. But yeah, like I like to have a debate, but I also like to win.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to win.
I think there are no lawyers that would come in here and say, "You know what, Bill, I love a loss."
Yeah.
I think all lawyers have, whether they're willing to admit it or not, a little bit of an ego, right? Because they walk into a room and they tell 12 strangers, "Don't listen to that guy, listen to me." For whatever reason, right? I'm sure they believe that their position is the right position, but when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, they walk into a room of strangers and say, "Don't listen to them, listen to me."
So it's also like part like sales. I feel like
I think so. I think it's got storytelling to it. Yeah.
that's a huge component. I mean, that's with like anything in life though. Like honestly, it doesn't matter what your job is, what your role, whatever it is. Like I think everything, you have to be relatable and you have to be able to like have like a normal conversation.
Yeah.
It's like if you can't do that, like who's gonna like want to talk to you and believe you or anything? Like you have to have that component, and I think that's like so important.
I think attorneys, it's important for them in the courtroom and out of the courtroom, right? So I prosecute. If I meet a victim, a survivor, and they're not comfortable telling me their story, if they're not comfortable talking to me, sometimes they are the evidence, right? Their testimony, their testimonial evidence, their ability to tell their story is why we're in court. So if they can't sit with me and tell me their story, how are they going to tell 12 strangers in a room full of people staring at them?
It's intimidating.
Right? So having that ability, like you said, to talk to people, to be a storyteller, but sometimes for attorneys to tell someone else's story. Right? I might be able to tell you, you know, there's no wrong answer if you're asking me about myself, because I can tell you all about myself. But if I'm sitting with someone that is in a domestic violence situation or a child that's been abused, I have to tell you their story, and a story that they've probably kept very close to themselves for quite a long time, or they're telling you because they had to, because they weren't safe. So you need to be able to make that connection with them. Could you imagine somebody talking to you about the thing you're most embarrassed about in your whole life and just meeting you and saying, "Hey, you're going through something traumatic. By the way, tell me everything, and then I'm going to retell it, and hopefully we'll get you some kind of justice somewhere." It definitely requires that bonding and that storytelling between people.
Do you also feel like there's a pressure on you to be able to tell that story and make sure that it's the right story?
I think so. So prosecutors are like, I don't know much about football, okay? But I would imagine they're like quarterbacks in a big way.
Except the helmet we got on.
Except the helmets
Except
we
our
have
helmets
here.
today, yeah.
But in a big way, like, so let's say there's an incident, police respond, they do their investigation, right? They do their investigation. A police officer can't stand in front of a judge and present evidence and say all that. A child who's been hurt can't just stand in front of a judge and say, "Hey, Your Honor, I'd like to tell you this." It has to be presented in a way by an attorney playing by the rules, right? The laws that we've determined. Evidence to get things in, the way we're allowed to say things, the things we're allowed to bring up, the way we're allowed to tell the story. It's a daunting task sometimes to say all these people did their job. I have to make sure their pieces fit together the right way. Right? And that's why I say to survivors, victims, when I meet them, I say, if you don't like me, I will not be offended. Right? If you say there's just something about you, I don't think I can tell you my story, tell me, and I will find someone else. Because if I get so focused on, no, you have to tell me, I'm the one, then I've done them a disservice for the job that I'm in, right? It's not the Angela Sperrazza agency. It's the Commonwealth. And it's you trying to find some level of justice. And we can have a conversation about whether or not the system actually does that, or the version of it that it does, or the pieces that it does. But if in the beginning, the first person you speak to, you don't have that connection with, then there's no chance you're going to get anything from it the way that you should. So I think it's really important to be able to have that. So I worry about it a little bit. I try to find ways to connect with people. I try to find ways to connect with kids. I tell them all the time, whatever you're going to tell me, you're not going to shock me. Right? Because I think to myself, if something happened to a child and they tell someone, the person they tell, it's going to have an effect on them, right? Like if you tell your teacher, because your teacher is the person you trust, your teacher might go, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that happened. And that child might think, oh, I just made you upset, right? I just took this thing and I put it on you. I think police officers and prosecutors have this responsibility to say, I'm going to take the stuff that you're putting on me and I'm not going to react. This is going to be the place where we tell you what we can do with it, right? We're not going to judge you. I'm not going to tell you I'm surprised by it. I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to tell you what your options are. And I think we owe society that when we take our oaths.
That is so interesting because like it's, a lot of times I feel like people don't hear these things from people like you. Like I'll say like the public, right?
Yeah.
I'll say like the average person. And sometimes I feel like it's sometimes hard to like understand and then like trust the court system and all the people involved, like what's really going on? Like, how does this really work? And you know what I mean? Like it could be like really daunting to people that don't know a whole lot about it. And then, like you said, they're coming along and then they have to like tell you things that they never imagined, number one, would ever happen to them. Or then they have to just, like just tell all. And it's like, that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah. And it's this idea, right, that there might be misinformation. I mean, I'm the first one to say it, right? I don't know if you Google things on your phone or WebMD things. I will find the worst possible solution to whatever my problem is.
Always.
And we talked about that, the flood of information that you have right at your fingertips.
Yeah.
If I was in a situation that I didn't know the legal system the way I do, and I didn't, I'm the first lawyer in my family. My dad's an insurance agent. My mom's a realtor. They started in the grocery business because that's what the Sperrazzas did. So for me to be in that world, I wouldn't know it any other way. So I'm very passionate about people knowing that the legal system may not be perfect, but it can help you in a lot of ways, especially if you need it. But if you're thinking about CSI and somebody's going to be screaming at you before the commercial break, right? And there's going to be evidence everywhere and they're going to know everything you've ever done. Why would anyone sign up for that? Right?
Yeah. That's crazy. And I want to learn a little bit, you said about your family and the name Sperrazza. Like where does the name come from? Do you know like a lot about like your family?
So it had a F where the P is. And it's supposed to be said Sperrazza.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I'm not even going to attempt that, by the way.
That's okay. I say Sperrazza because that's the way it's relatable and that's the way people say it. And if I had to say it the other way all the time, I'd probably say Sperrazza.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Because I'm Italian American. I'm not just Italian. I'm Italian American. But my dad's family had grocery stores. So my dad had a grocery store when I was little. My dad and my mom worked in the grocery store in Harding. And my brother and I, they used to put us in the wagon and walk us down to the grocery store. And one of the reasons I'm here in the profession that I'm in, that I feel such a calling to, is because of how supportive my family is with things like that. But my dad kind of changed things up, didn't want us to feel belabored by we have to do what everybody before us did. And my parents really bucked the system in a bit. And I think about, like, my dad didn't get his college degree until way later in life, until we had already graduated college. And it was super exciting for us. But if you think about the concept that my dad didn't get his college degree and my older brother is a doctor, I'm a lawyer, and my little brother is a nurse, it's insane to think about in one generation being able to make those educational jumps.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, it's huge. So sometimes, and I know we talked about this a little bit before we started, but sometimes, the Commonwealth is represented by me and I'm like, is it? Like, is it? Because I look at the people around me and I didn't come from a lineage of lawyers that this was a foregone conclusion. I didn't come from a lineage of doctors that this was a foregone conclusion. This is where we're going to be. And even in my legal career, it wasn't a smooth course, I'll say. It wasn't a direct route to prosecution and nothing else. It had some bumps, and my family was very supportive with that, which is, I think, a big testament to why I'm able to say I believe so much in the job that I'm in, because I was allotted that opportunity.
Was there a moment like as like a kid that you were like, kind of like me? I remember how I was like, I don't know how old I was, and I was like, I think I want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, did you have a moment in time, like whether you were like a young kid or, you know, a teen, whatever it was? Was there a moment in time that you're like, that's what I'm gonna do?
I was obsessed with fairness, right? I was that kid that if my brother did something, I would be like, you let Frank do this, so you have to let me do this. I was very into the rules. I liked the way the rules worked. I liked the concept of fairness. And I think that was the beginning of it. I loved language. I was that kid who was like, I will take honors English, but don't put me anywhere near math, right?
Oh God, same.
See?
Forget math.
And I was, I mean, maybe it's horrible to say, and I wouldn't say children should do this, but I was like, okay, so I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm bad at, so I'm going to lean into my good stuff. Now I find myself wishing that I kind of dug into the harder stuff a little bit more, but I leaned into what I liked, and that was language. And I liked art and music and culture. And when you think about the law is the next step, right? People come together. If we were a group, if we had 6 people here, right? And we said, hey, we like the 6 people here, but when Angela disagrees, she gets punchy, and we don't like that. And I'd say, well, that's on you guys. There's 6 of us. What can you do about it? And everyone got together and said, we're going to pass a rule that you're not allowed to hit. And I go, wait a minute. Well, we all passed it. We came together knowing that I wouldn't be able to meet that standard. We held me to a higher level. I think that's why the law is so interesting to me, because it's supposed to be a reflection of us. And I say that as the communal us.
Yes, like actually us.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting concept because like people, when you really think about law, and I don't think about it a lot, that to be honest, because
you will after this.
I am. I'm thinking about it a lot right now, right?
There you go.
But you don't think about those things, and you don't think about like who decided this, right? Like how did this happen? Who decided? Who put these things in place?
Yeah.
And like how does it work?
Well, I remember, so I'm a poli-sci major. I went to Fordham for school. I was one of those kids that was like, I'm getting out of the valley, right? And I look back and I think about how misguided I was to think that. I'm very thankful for the experiences that I had and the friends that I met that I would not have met if I lived here. And they taught me in so many ways and definitely gave me a diverse look at the world around me. But I wanted to bring it back. When I left, I didn't think about it like that. When I left, I was like, I just need to get out of here.
And when you left, was it just you went away to school, and then you didn't stay out of town? Did you come back like upon graduating?
So I went to Fordham for undergrad, and I did poli-sci women's studies with a minor in religious studies, right? So like following that culture thing. And then I went to law school at Widener, so I was in Harrisburg. And then I got a job outside of Jim Thorpe doing bankruptcy law, and I hated it. It was a time where the market was saturated with attorneys, right? So there's this period of time, for anybody who wants to be a lawyer, there's this period of time that you come out of law school that your job is basically to take the bar. So you're not a barred attorney when you come out of law school. You have to take and pass the bar. So there's this period of time when you're studying to take the bar. I was interning at a law firm, which a lot of people do, right? And it was a bankruptcy firm. And I thought, okay, like if I do well, they're going to offer me a job and that's what I'll do and I'll figure it out. And they did. And I was the only female attorney. My boss definitely wanted a fighter. He definitely wanted like kind of a pit bull. So he would pick fights with me over everything. But like even the day he was supposed to offer me my job, he was like, I'm going to offer you, let's talk about you staying here. Let's talk about it on Thursday. And then he would wait until the end of the day Thursday and not talk to me about it. And I'm sitting there drinking like 4 cups of coffee ready for this conversation that never happens.
Then was this like a test?
So the second time it happened, I was like, oh, he's playing a game. You know, and at the time I'm 25 years old. All I've done, like I've worked, right? I worked at Walmart. I worked at grocery stores. I think I found my way there through my blood. And I worked at Cooper's. I worked at all these things. So I'd worked jobs, but it wasn't the thing I had been trained for, right? The payoff to all the education, the payoff to all the opportunities my parents gave me. So now I'm waiting. I'm waiting for this job. I've been in school for 7 years.
Put in the work.
Yeah, I'm waiting for this moment where he's going to offer me this job and it's going to be great and all these things. And he's like, just not doing it. And I'm thinking, how much more can I audition for this? Like I've worked in this firm, I've written briefs, I've done all these things. And I was like, oh, he's messing with me. Like just to see what happens,
yeah.
Which that fairness thing in my head, right?
This isn't fair.
I was like, whoa. I'm going to tell him no. That's what I told myself. I was like, I'm going to tell him no matter what he says. I did not tell him no. I told him, you have to keep me if I fail the bar, right? So he was, okay, I'll do that. I'll keep you if you fail the bar. I should have told him no and saw what happened, but can't connect the dots until the end.
That's right.
And I told him, you're going to keep me. And he said, if you don't pass the bar, I'll keep you for at least like one opportunity to take it again. And then we'll see what happens. So I went to work at this bankruptcy firm and I hated it. I hated everything about it. I went into work and I was the new attorney. So it's natural. He was like, I want you here first one in and last one to leave, all these things. And the work didn't resonate with me. The people didn't resonate with me. I was in an area I didn't really know. And I thought, uh-oh.
What did I get myself into?
I thought I made a huge error. I think I like the law in theory and not in practice.
Oh, no.
And I was freaking out. And I have the best parents in the world. My dad's like, then come home. And I'm thinking, come home as a failure, at 25 years old and everybody invested in me and I can't deliver. That's kind of what I thought. And I came home.
So you felt like a failure coming home.
I did. I was like, I went to law school. I could handle Manhattan. I could handle 2 majors and a minor. I could handle law school. By that, I quit that job the day I found out I passed the bar. And I came home and I thought, wow, like my degrees will sit in the basement and I'm going to go back to working at Cooper's. Like, is that what's going to happen? I don't know. And that felt like a failure. And I think the period of time when I came out of school, so like 5 was high school, 9 was college, 12 was law school. I think around 2012, if you came out with a degree, there was like this thing, because that was it. Like, it didn't matter what you wanted to do. I think the mentality at the time, at least I know with me and the people I was around, was you need a piece of paper to say that you're worth something and that you need to be listened to.
And it's the only thing that can get you a job.
Mm-hmm. That's
right?
The only way you're getting one. And then people are coming out of law school and you're hearing, you sit in law school and they do the look to your left, look to your right. Someone won't be here, right? So then they have you in this hyper competitive state in law school, which I didn't like. I was like, I'm going to be myself, which I think is, thank God, one of the reasons that I do well in the profession that I do. But then they're telling everybody the market's saturated. Get a job, find a job. If you can find a job, get it, take it, figure it out. So I do that and I do all the things, right? I'm checking off the things on the list. And I felt like a failure. I came back. I got sworn into the Luzerne County Bar because my mother made me. I said, yeah, I'm going to get sworn in. And by now, people who have passed the bar have gotten jobs. So they might not find employers that are willing to hire them before they pass the bar. But at this point, results are out. So they have jobs. So I'm sitting with like people the last time I was home was high school and all these people have jobs. And I'm like, I got out of here and messed it up, and I stood in front of the bench, which you get sworn in front of all of the judges. And my sponsor, because you have to have a sponsor that stands up for you that says, I think they would be of good character and fitness to be a lawyer. And he's like, she's not doing anything now, but I'm sure great things are on the horizon. And I felt this big. And I knew Judge Burke because my grandmother had lived next to him. And he's like, oh, I see everybody here. I see little Angie Sperrazza. And I was like, Angela Sperrazza, the failure. And Judge Perantoni actually came up to me and was like, you're not doing anything. And I had known him from the Lions Club. My dad was in the Lions Club and I had done volunteer work. So I would always go help my dad in any way I could with any volunteer work. They did a lot of stuff in Houston. They had like a big Christmas party and Halloween party and a big Easter egg hunt. So I had known him just from that and I wanted to be a lawyer. So I'd ask him questions.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't believe you don't have a job. And I said, I did. And here's what happened. And he said, why don't you come and intern with me? He's like, I can't offer you a job, but look at criminal law. See what you think of it. He had the Hugo Zielinski case at the time.
Wild.
Right? So he was like, just come, hang out, so I would come and after.
So you experienced that?
Well, yeah, I would come and I'd watch him. By the time the case actually went to trial, I was down in the DA's office, which is crazy. But
so you were part of that?
No, I had to be kept out of it because I knew Judge Perantoni.
Okay. Right.
So he brings me in, he lets me intern for him. And then he says, I can give you a job as a tip staff, which is the person that comes in and says, all rise. and they make sure everybody gets their paperwork. And he's like, it's like no money and you don't have to have a degree to do it. And if you want to turn me down, I was like, I'll take it. I'll do it. Cause I liked it. And he was like, you can work with our law clerk. So that's the judge's law clerk. That's a lawyer who helps write his opinions. He was like, anything he wants to let you do, any help, any questions you have, you know, if you're taking this job, you can do all that stuff. I was like, awesome. I'm in. Like, absolutely. And I learned so much. I was lucky enough that his law clerk didn't like to type. So I was like, I'll type for you. So I got to, you know, almost like dictation. And I was not very fast at typing, but I figured it out, right?
Yeah.
Because it helped me learn. And I got to see other parts of court not coming in as a lawyer. And I was like, okay, I think criminal law is it.
That was it, huh?
Yeah. And I saw the DA's office and I saw the PD's office, and we had like 3 female attorneys that tried cases in front of Judge Parentoni. And my eyes lit up. I was like, okay, like this is something, right? So I find out there's an opening in the DA's office. I go and I intern and I don't get it. Or not intern, I interview and I don't get it. And I was like, oh, this is the worst. So I went downstairs. I was like, why didn't you hire me? I don't know where I got the gall to do that, but I needed to know.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm still a student.
Yeah, and a failure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm still a student in my head. So I'm like, all right, what do I need to know? Like, let's do some research here. What's the math? They were like, you just don't have enough experience right now. I had only been with Judge Parentoni for a couple months. They're like, you don't really have any legal experience. And they were right. And then one of the people they hired didn't take the job and they called me. And then I was in the DA's office, and that was a night and day difference from bankruptcy work.
So would you fall in love with it right away?
I did because it was all the things I cared about. It was fairness. It was principles. It was you're taking an oath to uphold the law. So at least in theory, and I will not sit here and say in application, that's how every prosecutor is or every DA's office is. Obviously, in execution, not all theories work the same. But in theory, that's what your prosecutor is, right? They're upholding the law for all of us. They're the ones who say, you hurt one of our citizens, we're going to tell the story and you guys can judge them, but we're going to be the ones to tell that story. They have a place to come. I was enamored. And I was in DUI court because that's where everybody starts, right? So I'm like, the law is this lofty principle. And they're like, this is someone who had 2 beers and drove home, right? And I'm like, okay. I was still excited about it. I thought it was the coolest job in the world. Felt like less of a failure at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you got a real job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It clicked. I was like, okay, now the other stuff makes sense.
Yeah, because you were figuring out what you didn't like.
Correct.
To figure out what you do like.
Yeah.
And off to the races.
And there's a lot of that in the law, right? You can come out with your law degree and you could do everything from criminal law to wills and estates to personal injury to patents, all these things. I couldn't tell you the first thing about how to be a tax attorney, right? I learned it for the bar. I could read it. But if I were to say to you, listen, Bill, let me do your taxes, it would be great. I would be lying my butt off because it's just not what I do. So the law is a great creature in that there's all these little nooks and crannies for people to find their spot. And my first foray into it was not my spot.
You're not the math person.
No.
You know?
Absolutely not. But my
neither.
second swing was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so you fell in love with that and in criminal law and like upholding just fairness.
Yeah.
Talk about that fairness thing for a minute. Because like, you know, growing up as a kid, it's always like, you're always told like life's not fair.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Right. But criminal law is us trying to make it fair. Right. And I say this all the time. There's no law that says that you can't be an a-hole. Right. You can come to me and you could say, listen, my neighbor is the worst, all these things. And I might say to you, there's no law that makes him be nice to you. There's Good Samaritan laws, like that idea that there's a Good Samaritan that has to help you. Not real. There's nothing that says that I have to help you. You're married to your wife, right? You don't have to help her with something. She could fall down the stairs tomorrow and you could leave her there and it doesn't break any laws. Now, the law is a reflection of us, right? And we as a society want to protect kids, right? We want to protect care-dependent persons. So if you have a child,
Yeah.
you have a duty of care to that child. You have a legal responsibility to them. That's the law trying to catch up with what we want our values to be, right? I can't take your stuff. We value stuff. Okay. Do we care more if I take your stuff or if I hurt you? We care more if I hurt you, right? Because we don't want people to do harm to each other. And we don't want them to take each other's stuff. But if we have to grade them, hurting somebody is going to be higher, right?
A little worse.
Yeah. So the law is a reflection of us, whether you stop and think about it or not. It is in a lot of ways. And if you want to talk about any society, right? If you want to say, well, that society has a problem, or that society, if you want to look backwards as like a barometer for how we were to each other, look at the laws of the time, right? You want to say a society was racist? We didn't let people of color vote. There's a law about it. If you want to know what we believed in, look at what we took the time to codify and put into writing.
Yeah, at that time, that's what we, the people, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
Believed.
100%.
Right? Did you do like a lot of research like on like previous like just cultures and times of like law and stuff like that?
Little bit. So I was obsessed with the idea of codes, right? Like Hammurabi's code is one of the oldest recorded documents. Well, it might not be a document because I think it's on stone, but oldest recorded writings, right? And what is it but a set of like principles? And you think about anything, and that's where like I think religious studies kind of made me jump into things, because we all try to pepper it with things, right? We want to keep church and state separate, but if we're honest with ourselves, it becomes a reflection of who's in power at the time or what the great majority is. So it's a very interesting juxtaposition between what we feel and what we believe and what we're willing to codify, what we're willing to punish, right? We are in, I think, the best system you could have. Do I think it's perfect by any means? No. Everything can change. It's going to change as we change in society. But we have a pretty good one, right? And the things we have at play with each other are freedom, which obviously our country believes in greatly, right? So if we say we're codifying these things, and if you break them, we are willing to take away your freedom, that's a huge statement.
It's a bold statement.
Right? That's a huge principle to be looking at. We're saying we believe in these things enough that we'll take away your freedom, which is why we're not going to do it if you're just a jerk, right?
Yeah, you're allowed to be a jerk.
Yeah. I can't make you be a nice person.
That's right.
But I can make you not hurt people, or I could punish you for hurting people. So it's an interesting... That's why I think the law, like you said, you don't talk about the law.
Yeah.
I talk about the law all day.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know enough about it. I'm getting a lesson here. I'm looking up Hammurabi's code.
Is it one of the oldest?
Yeah, it's just
writings.
Yeah, stone. It's just I'm seeing pictures. I had to Google it because like I know I've heard the term, the words before, but maybe I just didn't pay attention enough in school. Who knows? But
and we
sure,
romanticize it, right?
Yeah.
Like even if you think of I live by a code.
Yeah.
Knights take a code. They have an oath. We definitely romanticize it. So we love the idea of it.
Yeah. It's like a society culture thing. It's like we all have to, it's like living in a pack.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
Or you'll be kicked out of the culture.
The
You'll
tribe.
be kicked out of the group. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be kicked out.
No.
Nobody wants to, unless you're like a weird jerk.
Yeah.
That's like a double.
Well, then that becomes a question, right? If I want to live off the grid, do I still have to follow your rules? Yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. You still need to follow the law.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Speaking of law, one of my favorite movies of all time is Liar Liar, Jim Carrey.
The pen is blue.
That is one of the greatest. I don't know why it took me this long to bring this up, but I love Jim Carrey. I love humor. We were talking about this before. I was telling you before that I was like, yeah, I probably would have been like a horrible lawyer because I would just laugh probably in situations that I don't want to say they're inappropriate, but I would laugh at just things that if somebody's getting in trouble or whatever, like I would just laugh at weird things. I was like, yeah, that probably wouldn't fly in court, But then you were telling me the opposite, like that, a lot of times people make a name for themselves for really showing their personality. Yeah. And, Liar Liar, Jim Carrey, one of the best ever. I think
lawyer who's forced to tell the truth.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts is like when he took the phone, when I forget what it was, he was like all stressed out for like some reason. I can't remember exactly, even though like I've seen this movie a million times, but it's like he's walking back into his office and like his assistant or whoever it was like hands him the phone and says something like, "Hey, so-and-so is calling for legal advice." And she might have said what it was for, I forget. And he just picks up the phone and he just goes, "Stop breaking the law, asshole." And then just hung. That was like the greatest part.
Such a good movie.
Such a great part.
Or when he beats himself and the court asks him who was he, and he gives a
Yes.
description of himself.
Yes. Oh my God. Just the best.
Dark hair, big teeth, kind of gangly.
Kind of gangly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I'm kicking my ass. Do you mind? It's like the greatest.
The wordplay in that, if you love language, some of the humor in that is so witty and quick.
It's great.
That you...
It is so good. I feel like every time I watch it, especially now, because like, you know, we're like the same age, and growing up, like, you know, obviously you probably saw it when you were like, you know, probably the same age as me, like a kid, right? You don't really realize some of the things. You might have not have understood, right?
Yeah.
And it's like now when you watch it again and you're like, well, now for you especially, like you probably understand and see things way more than like I would. But like even myself, I pick up on things like, you know, like even the things that you just said. It's like, oh my God, it's like a little hidden gem. It's like you never even realized that part of the movie, you know?
Absolutely.
But Liar, classic.
It's a fun principle, right? If a lawyer were forced to tell the truth all the time, would they be successful?
Ooh.
That's like that whole crux of that movie is, can he still be successful?
That is so interesting. I mean,
my answer would be yes.
Why?
I think the best lawyers are honest.
Yeah.
I do. I think, and we said this, real recognizes real. I would not be a good salesman of BS, right? Because...
Yeah, because you want to tell the truth.
Exactly. And I'm Italian. I'm honest. My face is going to tell you.
Yes.
My
you got the hand gestures. I mean, like, come on.
I'm going to tell you. And if I don't believe in it, how am I going to tell you, listen to me and not that guy?
Yeah.
So in my opinion, the best lawyers are honest.
They gotta be.
The most successful ones are.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're our only self-policing profession. If someone's going to take your license, it's going to be another lawyer.
It's another interesting concept.
Right?
Kind of like, just like doctors too, right? They're all just practicing.
Yep. But doctors, who takes your license? Lawyers.
Do they?
Yeah, it would be a lawyer trying to take your license, right?
I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
That's why Shakespeare starts with, the first thing we do is kill all the lawyers, because they're the defenders of justice. Everybody thinks of that as like a joke, but his setup is the first thing we do is kill all the lawyers. Because in theory, they're supposed to be the keepers of justice. My favorite fictional lawyer is from Shakespeare.
Yeah. Holy crap.
It is Portia from The Merchant of Venice. She had to dress as a man to be taken seriously. And it was the pound of flesh. And they're fighting about the pound of flesh. And she says, you may take a pound of flesh, not a drop of blood more, not a drop of blood less. And obviously you can't do that. At least not at that time. But
yeah.
But I loved the idea that a woman was able to figure it all out, had to dress as a man and beat them at their own game.
So interesting.
Everybody likes Atticus Finch, and I like Atticus Finch, but...
So you're really into this. I was asking, like, how much research have you done? Like, you're like really deep into this.
I think it just happens. Like, I know we talked a little bit about being a curious person, right?
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to go. Like, if I'm going to watch a movie... It's probably going to have some level of that in it, right? If I'm going to read a book, it might not on its face look like a book about law. But like I said, religious studies, right? I became obsessed with the conversion narrative. Not just people that started one way and followed that and then believed in that and that was their entire life, but people who chose from a different background to convert to a religion, right? It's the same thing. It's something that moves you as a person. So it's a different aspect, right? I was moved by fairness, but I became obsessed with the idea of the conversion narrative. I think God puts like things in your bucket, right? Like I say all the time, I like fairness. My computer works fast. Like you can give me a problem. I will see the same thing in 5 minutes that I will see in 25 minutes. In some cases, that's good. In some cases, that's bad. Some people in 25 minutes will see 10 problems. I'll see the same ones. Right? And I am a dog with a bone with a lot of stuff, and I'll become obsessed with things. Those things in my bucket and a supportive family make me able to do my job, right? So if I'm true to myself and I follow my natural inclinations, I'm probably going to lead to things that are going to make it look like I've researched everything about the law. but it's really just the natural progression of me following what I like.
Yeah. And oftentimes people become, at least I think, most successful in something that they absolutely love.
Yep.
Because they're just, like you said, it's natural.
Yeah.
And it's authentic.
Yep.
And you could just see it. I could see it, the passion that you have, it's like so intense. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I love to see people that, and you said the words obsessed. Like I love to see people that are so obsessed about what they do.
Yeah.
Like I'm like obsessed for you.
I love that.
You know what I mean? Like I just love the energy. Like, like you just have, you have that, you give off that energy, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like I could feel it now, like how prideful you are of what you do.
Yeah.
And like, there's nothing greater than having a conversation with somebody that like really, truly like loves what they do. Mm-hmm. And you could just feel the energy, and it feeds off to other people.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it takes a while for people to find that.
Yeah.
But like, once you do, like you said, failure,
mm-hmm.
and then boom.
Yep. And I got really lucky that when I came into the DA's office, I interacted with all these people that, what is it? Train until your heroes become your like contemporaries, right? So I'm with all these people that I'm like, oh my God. Like one of the people that I watched her trial, she's at the Attorney General's office with me now, right? So we spent 8.5 years in the DA's office together, and now she's at the Attorney General's office. She's in a different unit, but like I work with one of those people now. One of the people that I was sitting there going, I don't know if I want to be a lawyer, and I'm watching her and I'm like, wow, like this is amazing. That's amazing to me. And I met I think one of the reasons I can have the opinion that I have is I met some really good law enforcement officers, right? I met some really good troopers and some really good cops that did the job the right way because they cared about their community. And it's hard not to get brought into that. It's hard for that not to be infectious. If they're actually doing their job, right? If someone is actually standing up and saying,
On the Stacks will be back in a flash after a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Elevation Wellness, NEPA's premier wellness center located on Mundy Street in Wilkes-Barre. From pro athletes to busy parents, Elevation Wellness is leading the conversation when it comes to bettering your health through integrative medicine. Founded by NEPA native Louis Helmecke, Elevation Wellness offers physician-formulated and guided treatments that are administered by registered nurses. To learn more about how you can experience the benefits of IV vitamin therapy, multivitamin booster shots, non-invasive aesthetics, or peptide, NAD, red light, and compression therapy, visit elevation-wellness.com or follow them on Instagram at Elevation Wellness NEPA. All On the Stacks listeners will receive 10% off their first purchase with code STACKS at checkout. Call 570-762-9400 or visit elevation-wellness.com to book your appointment today. Elevation Wellness, taking your health to new heights. Welcome to the future. While you're hearing this ad in the present, the Center for Technology Innovation at Lackawanna College is preparing students for the jobs of tomorrow in the world of advanced technology. The Center for Technology Innovation will offer undergraduate degree programs, corporate training, as well as short-term stackable certificates in areas such as robotics, cybersecurity, electric vehicles, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence. Based at a 90,000 square foot facility in downtown Scranton, Pennsylvania, the Center for Technology Innovation is located 2 hours from the major cities of New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia, and is just 15 minutes from a commercial airport in a region thriving with tourist attractions and a vibrant restaurant, educational, and cultural scene. Lackawanna College is a proven industry-leading innovator. But don't just take my word for it. Fast Company even recognized Lackawanna College's reputation for innovation by naming them to their top 10 list as one of the world's most innovative companies. For more information or to enroll, call 877-346-3552 or visit lackawanna.edu.
I have the privilege of representing people who have been injured through no fault of their own, and they come to us and they place a lot of trust in us, and we represent them against corporations and insurance companies, and we make those companies know that our clients have a story, that they deserve compensation, and I'm proud to be able to do that for our clients at Anzalone Law.
To learn more, visit Anzalone Law offices online at anzalonelaw.com. And now we're back on the Stacks.
someone is actually standing up and saying, when you have a problem and you can't handle your life, send me, right? Like when you need to pick up the phone because you cannot handle your world, I'll come. When you're scared, when you're afraid, when everyone else is running away, I'll run towards it. When those people are giving you their cases, right? They're saying, and I talk to you about meeting with survivors and victims. I say all the time, if the cop didn't care, they're not going to talk to me, right? If you came in and you feel broken and hurt, or you blame yourself for something you shouldn't blame yourself for, and there's a cop sitting there rolling their eyes or going, I'd leave in 5 minutes. And I say, hey, I'm Angela, I'm from the DA's office, or hey, I'm Angela from the Attorney General's office. They already wrote a check that I'm cashing, and it's not good, right? I might not be able to build myself out of that. But if they take the time to really sit with somebody and they go, hey, we're going to bring you somebody from the DA's office, or we're going to bring you somebody from the AG's office, and they're going to sit and talk to you, and any questions you have, they're going to answer them, and I'm going to be here too. That's worth its weight in gold in trying to make somebody comfortable. Same thing, I had awesome victim advocates too, that really sat with people that they told me if I was coming into a situation and they were coming in hot, if they're like, hey, mom's angry, kid's scared, you need to navigate this the right way. They gave me the inside track. So I looked like I knew way more than I did, because they were willing to do that. And I think when I came into that profession, it was the perfect storm of good people teaching me good things. And that makes me get to kind of look at the law in the romantic and wonderful way that I do.
Yeah. It's great to be able to have like the supportive people, around you. And like, even like you said, like going back to like your family and just supporting, you carving out this path that you did for yourself. Like that's like really important. And, sometimes I'm sad to see when other people may not have that supportive, whatever it is. It could be a spouse, it could be family, parent, whoever, but it's like, I like to hear those stories of like, hey, like they said, hey, you want to do something totally different? Good.
Yeah.
Do it.
I hit the jackpot in that department. Like my family, I ran a half Ironman with my dad, right? My dad is like my go-to. My mom says we're both gas pedals, and she'll be like, I don't know, I worry you're both gas pedals. But he gets me. He takes time with me in a way that I wouldn't be able to be. And it's the stereotype, right? He's a Sicilian man. So you would think that a Sicilian man, I didn't get married until I was 34, right? You would think a Sicilian man would be like, I don't know when my only daughter's getting married. Never felt pressured. Not from my family, maybe from society, but not from my family. And my mother is sweet and kind and still super supportive. She knows I deal with people that do horrible things, and she's super supportive. And we talked about this. She's like, wear your horn.
Yeah, raise that thing up so we can see it. Might have to put up a little. There you go.
My
What is that?
It's
We were talking about that when you walked in.
My Italian horn. It's supposed to protect you from the evil eye, from the Maloke. I know you're not supposed to wear it with your cross, but I do. And I wear my bracelets with the evil eye. But that's my mom's way of being supportive. My brothers are the same thing. Like, they have not chosen the path that I have chosen. They're never like, Ange, we don't want to hear it today, you know? Or, Ange, we don't want to go down that road. And Joe, my husband.
Shout out to Joe.
Shout out to Joe Holmesa and Chase.
Yes.
Super supportive. He knew me as a DA before I used to go, I'm not dating cops. Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. You were anti-Joe.
Yeah. Cops in general. I was like, they're great, but I felt like I wouldn't be taken seriously if I was younger than a lot of the police I was working with, or younger than a lot of attorneys. And if I was dating a cop, I worried about that. Whether it was right or wrong, it was something I worried about. I think there's a lot of people that are able to navigate both those worlds just fine, but I was worried that I wouldn't. And, you make a plan and God laughs, because Joe's wonderful. He's super supportive. He never tries to dial me down or tone me down. I was prepping for a trial once, and we were staying at my house, and it was in between, because I know we used to be neighbors. But
That's right, yeah. Ange and I used to be neighbors way back in the day.
We did.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of young attorneys lived in that area.
Did they?
Yeah.
I really didn't know too many people. I just kept to myself. Like, the only time we ever saw each other was like we were on the go all the time.
Yeah.
I just remember like you getting in and out of your car and I'm getting in and out of my car. Like, that was it. But like
Busy.
we knew who each other were, you know? And then we finally met later on down the road.
In real life.
Yeah. IRL.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But the shower was downstairs in this apartment, and the way I knew I was going to be cross-examining a defendant and closing the next day. Sometimes you don't get that, right? Sometimes you're in trial and they're like, all right, defendant's going to take the stand. Be ready for cross. So you have to be ready for everything. The way the day went, I had a day. I had like the evening to prep. So I had already put on all my witnesses. Commonwealth goes first, right? We build a wall. Defense doesn't have to do anything. Defense could get up there, not say a single word, get up in their closing and go, are you sure about that? And they could find someone not guilty based on that. It's not about innocence. It's not about proving innocence. And I strongly believe in that. Like, we should be able to build our wall. Defense should be able to hold us to that burden, right? So I had built my wall. Defendant is getting on the stand and I'm going through everything. It was like a beautiful mind on my floor, just papers
You're
everywhere.
mapping this out, mind map here.
Oh
right?
yeah. It definitely, if I were to look back at those notes now, they would probably look like hieroglyphics because
Yeah, look like Hammurabi's code, right?
it would, but it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And Joe's like, I'm calling it. I'm going to bed. Right. So he goes upstairs and I get in the shower. I'm like, all right, like I need to sleep at some point. So I'm washing my hair and I start to realize how I would ask these questions. And that if this person says, yes, I'm going to go this way. If this person says, no, I'm going to go this way. And it's mapping out in my head. So I start screaming from the shower. I'm like, Joe! I start screaming to Marine Police Officer Joe.
Yes.
From another floor. He's coming running downstairs. Oh my God, what's wrong?
Yeah, he's got guns drawn, like.
To which I'm responding, just write this down. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, if she says this, I say this. If she says that, I say this. And Joe didn't freak out, didn't tell me that I almost gave him a heart attack, took down the notes, showed up the next day because he was off work in court to watch me cross-examine. Like, so I have, if they will put up with that kind of random thought process, I have the most supportive group. And my friends are super supportive. I have some wonderful friends that I have that I met in the DA's office that it's like trial by fire, right? Trauma bonded with, that even though they're not in the DA's office anymore, or they don't practice criminal law, or they do, they're still there for me to workshop stuff out and ask questions. And I'm very, very lucky. I would not be able to be the attorney that I am, and I am not be able to help the people that I help if I didn't have all those people behind me.
And all those brainstorm sessions in the shower.
100%.
Those are important.
There's something about walking away from it, right?
Yeah. Just take
letting
it.
simmer.
Yeah. If you can't, like, I do that a lot of times myself too. It's like you stare at something for so long and you can't come up with the answer, the solution, whether it's creative or not, whatever it is, right? And then, like you said, you walk away and do something, right? Even if it's just walk. Like, even if it's just take a walk, because I've done that. Yeah. Right? But again, like the shower thing, I mean, I feel like everybody has great ideas in the shower, right?
I have a theory.
Oh, do you? Okay. Want to hear this.
Because your brain is doing something it already knows, right? So you're not 100% zoned out. You're engaging in some way, but whatever you were thinking about, those browsers are still open, right?
I always got a million tabs open. By the way.
So it's not a full checkout because you're still achieving a purpose, but you could do those things on autopilot.
Right.
So your brain's like, oh no, you've given me time. And it runs with it.
It allows it to just like kind of process in the background.
Yeah.
And like subconsciously comes up with the solution.
I probably need a dry erase marker in the shower so I could just write on the walls.
There you go. There's $1 million idea.
I'm sure someone has thought of it before me.
Yeah.
Probably in the shower.
Probably.
Right?
Naturally. Yeah. But like, if I can only write something right here, right now.
And it wouldn't go away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you could yell to your phone, like, hey Siri, make a note. Oh. Now my phone might be, oh no. Okay. It didn't. Okay.
See, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I actually I bought this, I got this sweat tent, this sauna, this outdoor like sauna in my backyard. And like, it's easy. Like, I don't want to have my phone in there. Right. So like, I first time in there, I'm like, oh, I don't know how long I'm going to be in here. Didn't have like a clock or watch or anything. Right. So I just yelled to my phone to set a timer and boom, done.
You're doing heat exposure?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be good for your heart, right?
A lot of things.
Stress-induced heat for a limited period of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then you're supposed to do the cold thing too.
Cold
right
plunge.
After. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you doing the cold plunge?
I didn't get there yet. But I think I'm going to do it.
You'll have to let me know.
I did a cold shower though, like after my last session.
Okay.
Like I went inside immediately. And by the way, like, so obviously probably in a cold plunge, like where you're like actually in like an ice bath, that's probably like going to be like way colder.
Yeah.
But like going inside and like, when you take a cold shower, like, I've always been like a really warm shower kind of person.
Same. Burn your skin off.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Like hot. And so anytime like you ever get a little bit of cold, I would just be like, oh my God, not for me.
Yeah.
Not for me, right? But as soon as you get out of the sauna, because you're so hot, like I took a cold shower, not in like the coldest, because I'm easing myself into it, right? But like, cold, but not like ice cold in the shower. But like it was almost like nothing, but it felt good because your body was, so hot, so
Yeah.
heat, from all the heat, that like even like when it was kind of cold, it like didn't really, it was like, oh, this is nothing. But like if you were to just do that on like any old day, like you'd be like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
But again, same thing. It's kind of like a shock to your system, and kind of gets you clear, gets you like with a clear mind, I think.
And that I can do a hard thing.
Yes.
Like I made myself do a hard thing.
Yeah, something that like honestly, like me doing that. Literally, this was just, when was this? This was yesterday, actually. Believe it or not, the first kind of cold shower.
Yeah.
Was yesterday, and like I would never have done that before. Like I'd be like, oh no way. Like I like warm showers. I'm not gonna do that. Why put myself through that?
Yeah.
But it's like, I think mentally too, it just builds mental toughness.
Absolutely.
Like it's just like, I'm just gonna do this. Now, granted, it was a little bit easier, right? Because my body was so warm.
Yeah.
But again, like from one thing to the other, and it's just like you do it, and you just build a habit, and it's just like, it's just a mental thing. Like
You're gonna have to keep me up to date. I want to know.
I will.
What the long-term benefit is.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot, and it's like, I think also too, like even just like almost, not that you're gonna like meditate and fall asleep, but same thing, just like you would in the shower, where you might think of something, like you might be in a sauna, and like you're relaxing, right?
Gives you that space.
It kind of gives you the space, and because like also where I live, like it's a little woodsy, right?
Yeah.
And because it's an outdoor sauna and it's meant to be outdoors and can withstand conditions, right? But also like too, it's like you get to just kind of look around at your backyard. You know what
I
I mean?
like that. You get to be present.
Yeah. So it's like, that's something that maybe I haven't been doing enough of much lately. Kind of getting back in touch with little things like that that we don't think of. Like we're all so busy all the time.
Absolutely.
Right? You, me, everybody else watching this, and they're probably everyone's probably thinking to themselves like, oh my gosh, I should shut this off and go outside right now, right?
I'm gonna go be present, not with these two.
Right. But it's just like a time to just kind of just shut everything off. And even though I have my phone outside the sauna, like I didn't have it in there with me, and I'm not scrolling or anything. I'm doing nothing, which like sometimes I feel like nowadays for a lot of people it's harder to do nothing.
Grant yourself that. Grant yourself time, to give yourself time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think everybody struggles with that. I mean, I for sure myself too. It's like, oh, we'll just, I'm bored or whatever. I'll just, go on my phone, do this, do that, maybe do some extra work, whatever. But it's like, just having that, even if it's 15 or 20 minutes in a sauna or whatever it is, even if it's just outside, even if you just go like, just sit outside.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think it makes a big difference.
And I think COVID was great for that stuff. Bad for the law, but great for that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think COVID gave people, like, no one's getting ahead of you. Everyone stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was an interesting way to see that we talked about like society and how society works. It was interesting to see everyone have to take a beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my new thing.
I like it.
Yeah. And I'm into it.
I like it.
Yeah. I'll definitely keep you up to date.
Yes, you have to.
I'll be posting about it probably all over social media too.
Yeah. Joe's going to be calling you like, why do we have a polar plunge?
Right? Yeah. You're going to have all these like contraptions in your backyard now.
She's polar plunging with the dogs. Stop her.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to build a new mental toughness.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You guys are going to be researching it like tonight. I know
100%.
it. Yeah.
Oh, I got obsessed with David Goggins when I ran my first marathon.
That's kind of what I was thinking of the same thing as we were having this
Fill
conversation.
the cookie jar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I trained for my first marathon, it was the same thing. I would leave my phone away from me. And at first it was the biggest difficulty in the world. And then I found myself looking forward to that concept, right? I was not looking forward to the long runs, but I was looking forward to being away from my phone because I needed that. I needed that distance. I needed that perspective. So it's an interesting thing when people can take a beat.
Yeah. And, for you, I mean, you deal with a lot of heavy stuff all the time. Like literally day in and day out. Like, how does that weigh on your minds? Like, what do you do?
Throwing the ball with the dogs. It might seem like the simplest thing in the world, but listen, a dog's not going to lie to you. A dog's not trying to hide something from you. And like I said, I have great friends that like, if I want to talk about stuff, they're there. If I don't want to talk about stuff, I have friends that will sit in the muck with me, right? Like, you're in a bad mood, I'll sit here and be in a bad mood. Joe's great with stuff like that. My parents are great with stuff like that. It doesn't happen a lot. And I think that goes towards what we talked about, right? Like, if the yoke is too heavy for you, maybe it's not your yoke, right? If it feels, and I'm not saying people don't have hard days, but if it feels like a crushing burden, then maybe it's not your like burden, right? Like maybe that's not what you're made for. And there's things that I look at some of our victims advocates and I get to come in and say, this is a bad guy, right? And I get to tell people this is a bad guy. I get to speak for a victim. Hopefully, you know, I get a conviction and I get to be there when they're punished. I have a formula. I know what I can offer a victim. I look at some of our victims advocates and they just sit in the muck with them, right? They sit under that storm cloud with them and sometimes they don't say anything. I don't know if I could do that. To me, I would want to try to fix it. I would want to try to punish someone. I would want to try to make sure it didn't happen again. That's the way my brain and my heart would work. Their burden of having to just sit in it with them, I might not be able to do that. That wouldn't work for me. That yoke would be too heavy for me. So I think that's part of it too. I think having that distance and having that perspective of why I do what I do, what I feel about what I do, why I feel connected to it, makes the tough stuff seem smaller.
Yeah. That is it's really important to like just think about that too, because like again, there's some tough stuff. There's a lot of tough things that like you have to like, like see and witness and be part of. And it's like, wow. It's like, sometimes it's like, I think to myself, like, how do you even do that? Like, I know it's not my thing, like, I 100% appreciate and respect like what you do. And like, just that, because it's, again, like I said, it's like, it's not my thing, but like, I just sometimes can't imagine how difficult sometimes it could be to have to do, that job.
And I see things in a controlled environment, right? Like, I don't have to go into a room where somebody is actively being hurt, right? Like, I don't have to go where the monsters live, right? Law enforcement, they have to go to the places that the monsters live and bring them out. And then I show everybody what those monsters are, right? And that's a different skill set and a different thing. I couldn't go to where the monsters live. I don't think I would be capable of that in the way that they are. Like, I give them all the respect in the world. It's one of the reasons I love my husband, because he's willing to go to the places, right? And good cops are willing to go to those places. They're willing to sign up for that every single day.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
It is.
So I get to be helpful, but a little step removed from having to go to those literally into those dark places the way that they do.
Yeah. But you're kind of like, you're just as an important piece of the puzzle though. Yeah. It's like, goes from there then to you, and and then that's your arena. Like
we talked about storytelling.
Yeah.
Like being able to tell that story.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love storytelling. We were talking about this, I think, before we came on. Like,
we did.
Like just how cool it is to just be able, to take something and just, be able to share somebody else's story, even just through like a medium like this.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's so important. What a lot of like media is lacking these days. And when I say media, I don't mean just traditional like media on TV or anything like that. I just mean media in general, like the internet, just things on the internet. And I'm a big fan of the internet and tech and everything. Like I'm a huge gadget person. Like, so like, a lot of people will like bash the internet and say like, oh, the internet did this and social media ruined that. It's like, well, yes, you could look at it that way. And has it done some of that stuff? Sure. But like, also like, let's look at the good things that it's done. And you know what I mean? Like, let's look at the good things that are happening. Like you can go anywhere and just find bad anywhere and anything, but you can also find good too. And it's like, it's just as important to look at both sides, not just look at it for, oh, that just sucks and it's bad and no one should do it.
It's a tool, right?
Yeah, it is a tool.
So it's a tool how we choose to use it.
Yep,
right?
Exactly.
We could use the ability to connect with people that we have, absolutely could foster some communication that our grandparents wouldn't be able to dream of.
You were saying that before. Yeah.
Right? Like, they wouldn't be able to dream of the conversations that we could have, right? And the communication that we could have with each other. I talked a little bit about, like, when I went to college, I went to Seton Catholic High School. I think I graduated with 60 people, right? Everybody's families were a lot like mine. Everybody was very similar to me. And then I went to Fordham University in Manhattan, and I walked into a room and nobody looked like me, and everybody was from different backgrounds. And I found this amazing group of friends that were willing to engage in conversations with me, right? Conversations with me where I might not know what I was talking about, where I might say things that seemed ignorant because I was ignorant. And I don't mean it in a derogatory way. I mean it in the term ignorant. I did not know what I didn't know.
Yeah, people don't know what that word means, by the way.
Yeah.
It actually means you just don't understand something.
Absolutely.
Right? Everybody uses that. I think I even still use it wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if I'm mad, I was like, oh, they're ignorant.
Yeah, in a diminutive way. Like, you're
Right.
so ignorant.
Yeah, right. But actually the true definition is not understanding something.
18-year-old Angela would have been like, yeah, in a lot of ways I am, because there's so many things that I don't know. And I had this amazing group of friends that were willing to engage in conversations with me. And that's what I miss. And that's what I think we're lacking in so many ways, right? We don't talk to each other anymore. There's this idea that once we find something we disagree about, you're over there and I'm over here, and it does not matter.
Right.
It's not about finding common ground. It's about me telling you not just why you're wrong, why that makes you a bad person. And it's about you telling me why I'm a bad person for thinking what I think. And listen, are there some thoughts that make you a bad person? Probably, right? I'm not here to say every idea is a good idea and every thought that someone has makes them a good person, but we're losing the ability to communicate. And I was really lucky when I went to school that people were willing to take the time to communicate with me and invest in me. Because I think that's what they did. Whether they did it intentionally or not, it gave me a viewpoint that I would never get in any other way. And it educated me in a lot of ways. So I agree with you. I think we're missing that. We're missing the idea of educating each other. And the internet could be an amazing tool for that.
Totally.
It's also one of the worst things.
Right.
Like when I think about, like I said, survivors that come forward, the internet's got to be a scary prospect, right? That everyone's going to have an opinion on what you did. Everyone's going to have an opinion on why you came forward. Everyone's going to have an opinion on your story, whether or not they heard it. And they're going to feel the need not just to have that opinion, but to type it and send it directly to you.
Yeah. Instantly.
Yeah. Like, there's a step between there, right? What do our moms say? If you can't say something nice, don't say something at all, right? We're so far beyond that.
Yeah, like that doesn't even exist anymore, unfortunately.
It's not even just say the not nice thing to yourself or to your friends. You need to tell that person exactly why you don't like them. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
Wild to me. And I wish we can get past that. Like we said, everything's a reflection of society. If men were angels, no rules would be necessary, right? Everything's a reflection of society. I wish the internet would start to reflect a better part of us.
Yeah. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but like, nowadays it's like you can't even have a debate without like breaking a friendship.
Nope.
Like, or any type of relationship, whether it's friends or family. Like, and that sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's like no matter what, like, you're going to either offend somebody or, everything just becomes so political nowadays.
And it limits us.
It does.
It limits us and
it's dividing.
Yep.
It's so dividing. I feel like our society has become so divided.
And those deep set divisions.
Yeah. Like
and
extreme.
As a public servant, it puts me in the craziest position, right? Because I don't care what your political affiliation is. If you need an ADA, if you need an attorney general, if you need a prosecutor, I want to be there for you, right? That is the oath I took. That is the path that I am on. That is what I've chosen to do. I would never want someone to think, oh, well, I don't know. I'm going to say it like this. I don't know what color she would prefer, blue or red, so I don't know if I can talk to her. Like, it's the most daunting task because I would never want someone to feel that being able to go to law enforcement is a political issue. Like, if you need somebody, you need somebody, right? When you call 911, they don't ask you to tell your party before they dispatch. So it's a daunting thing, I think, for a public servant because I don't serve part of the public. We serve all of the public. So we need to get better at seeing each other as human beings and not as sides.
Yes, I would 100% agree. Because that's, I love to have, talks like this. And even if we disagreed on something, that's fine. But
100%.
Like we could still be normal humans to each other. And there's people, I don't know what the hell got into some people nowadays, but you could still just have you can just disagree, but you can still be friends. And you could still guys, life goes on. It's not the end of the world.
No.
And it's just, it's wild to me.
I mean, my job's adversarial, right? So there's going to be someone on the other side. Do I hate every defense attorney? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do I disagree with the way they argue things? Sure. Do I disagree with the law or the way that they see the law? Yeah. Do I disagree with the way they see the facts? I'll be the first to tell you if I do. Doesn't mean I don't like them as a person. My job requires their job. If my case, and this, I think this is a principle in the law that people can actually learn from, right? As a prosecutor, if my case can't stand the muster of a defense attorney going after it, then my case is not as strong as I think it is. If you think you believe in something and you can't engage in a conversation, I'm not talking about name calling, I'm not talking about people going for the jugular, engaging in a conversation about that topic, maybe you don't believe in it as strongly as you think you do. Because one of two things is going to happen. You're going to find common ground somewhere, which I would argue I think we all could find a lot of common ground. When it really comes down to it, the basic stuff. I mean, hey, we all agreed on the laws, right?
Yeah, in the first place.
Right? No one is up there saying, oh yeah, I think we're on the bad side of history. People should be able to hurt children. No one's getting up there saying that. Now, the way to go about implementing protecting children, people might disagree about, but at its core, we're in agreement that it needs to be something that's done. I think in basic conversations, having a basic conversation with somebody, even if you disagree with them vehemently, you might come out of that disagreement believing even stronger in your side because it's been tested. I think we lost that art or are losing it. Hopefully it's not lost, but I think we're losing it. And I worry about that.
Yeah. Something we need to bring back.
Yes.
It's, finding commonality, it's really not that hard.
Yeah.
As soon as you walked in the door, what were we talking about? Music.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like music, first of all?
Absolutely.
Not that we didn't talk before, but it's we discovered that we like some of the same music that, we've never spoken about that before.
No, we haven't.
But it's I had music on and instant connection. We're instantly relating and we're talking about music.
Liar,
and
liar. We both can quote liar, liar.
Right. Funny humor, even though it was it's the movie's obviously about law, but still it's, it's just human connection and it's, humor and comedy and just arts and music and all that stuff. Everybody still likes that stuff. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what side you're on politically or religiously or whatever. I don't think there isn't a person that doesn't like watching a movie or listening to music. How could you not?
And go out on a limb with people a little bit, right? You could have said liar, liar, and I could have looked you dead in the face and be like, that's a mockery of the law. I can't believe you like that movie.
Yeah.
It's To Kill a Mockingbird or nothing. But I didn't.
Yeah, and I didn't know what to expect either. You could have done that and I've been like, oh shit, shouldn't have said that.
But then what would the harm have been?
Right, nothing.
That you tried to make a connection and it didn't work.
Right, and so what?
If my response to you is, I can't believe you said that, I'm finished speaking to you, I'm out, where would we get?
Nowhere.
You know what I mean? We would miss an entire portion of the conversation we just had. We wouldn't get to know each other in that way. And I really hope that we can get to that place. And I mean, I wonder sometimes if the reason I care so much about that is because so much of my job is telling other people's stories and asking people to listen to other people, right? I'm asking a group of 12 people who I don't know who they are before I pick them. Well, it's more like deselection. You don't select a jury.
Yeah.
You take people out, but I don't know who they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to have anything that relates them to my survivor or my victim. I don't know that. But I know no matter what, I'm going to stand up there and ask them, please just listen, right? Even if you say to yourself, and we have that problem, right? As a society, I think it's a way to keep ourselves safe. We victim blame a little bit. I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't react that way. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do that. If you stay that far away, you're never going to be able to really listen to this person's story, right? If you convince yourself, or my kid wouldn't be in that situation, or my daughter wouldn't be in that situation. I had a trial where a woman went to drink in a garage with a couple of guys. And when I was first talking about this case, my dad was like, "You're going to have a hard time there." And I said, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, because people are going to look at it like that." And thank God he did, because if I played and I know I spoke very ideally about the law, but if I thought to myself, no, the law is the law and I'll just tell people, right? If I didn't have her explain all the reasons behind what she did and why she did it and everything that was going on in her mind, I don't know if the jury would be able to relate to her the way that they did, right? Because you might say, and I think, and I'm paraphrasing for my dad, I think the first thing my dad thought was, my daughter wouldn't do that, so why would they, right? And it's really a defense mechanism. It's, I'm gonna hear about a horrible thing that happened, and if I can figure out, and this is probably evolutionary, if I can figure out what they did to put themselves there, I can make sure that doesn't happen to me. And it's just not that simple, right? There's no formula that says if you follow this formula, you'll never be a victim of a crime. If you follow this formula, nothing bad will ever happen to anyone you love. I wish I could tell you there was, right? I wish I could be like, "Hey, Bill, here's the rules, follow them and everything will be fine." You said in the beginning, life's not fair, right? So there's not that formula, and it's something we have to grapple with, and it's something that we have to talk about, and asking people, don't step out, listen to these people's story, right? Please try. That's part of my job.
What do you think is the biggest thing that law taught you about life?
Ooh, I think it's still teaching me a lot about life. I think law taught me to listen a lot better. Our brains aren't fully developed until we're in our late 20s. I think law taught me to listen in a lot of ways. And it made me really think about, like we talked about earlier, do I want you to be a different person, or do I think what you're doing is criminal, right? Because there might be things that you might do that I wouldn't do, right? And it doesn't harm anybody. It doesn't anything. It's a matter of taste. There might be things that you shouldn't do because it hurts other people. And I think when you look at that, I think there's a lot of things that don't bother me the way that they might have before. Because I'm like, all right, I get cut off in traffic, same as everybody else, right? And there's some days that I'm like, right? And I think to myself, but in the long run, what's it doing? Nothing, right? Even in trial, at the end, this didn't happen to me, right? So I need to have a little bit of grace with how I deal with the people that I'm there. I've had parents be really mad at me. And I think to myself, something happened to my kid, I don't know how I'd react. So you can yell at me. You can beat me up a little bit. And I've had parents come back to me and be like, I'm sorry, I beat you up a little bit. And I say that's okay, right? So I think I've learned to listen. I think the law has taught me how to listen. I'm still learning that one. I'm still learning it.
And we're all still learning about a million things.
Yeah.
And I think, just the other thing too is just having empathy.
Yeah.
That's, especially for in your role, that's probably huge.
Yeah.
Storytelling and just the whole thing, empathy, that's all so important. All I feel like goes hand in hand. Yeah. And, the more experience you have, the better you get with it, know. But I think it all starts there. Yeah. You need to be able to have that first, because if you can't empathize with people, it's I don't know.
Like I told you, they're not going to tell you, right?
Right.
If I put somebody on the stand and they stop talking, I'm done. Right?
Yeah, not good.
I'm done. I can't do anything, and I'm cognizant of that. And I'm just going to say it. I think defendants are cognizant of that. That's why I think sometimes they do everything in their power to put pressure on victims. They mean mug victims. They bring their whole family into mean mug victims. We talked about me getting passionate about stuff. It drives me nuts. It really does. Here's the legal system we all agreed to. He or she is getting up to stand in a room in front of you and in front of a bunch of strangers. It is hard enough. Now you're going to bring in people to intimidate them? You're going to fill this room with a bunch of people? That's when I feel about my job okay, God gave me a big mouth and I'm going to tell everybody what you did. I am. And if 12 people decide it's not enough, then 12 people decide it's not enough. But it's not because you kept that kid from talking. We're not going to do that. So being able to build that bond, me getting up there as a microphone, if I'm a microphone to nothing, it doesn't matter. It's not about me. It's about them and their story and their ability to tell me their story and let me tell their story. So I think empathy is a powerful thing.
For sure. And just being able to have the confidence to get up there, that's to be able to again, because you're really trying to, do the right thing. You said fair, right? And to be able to have the confidence to get up there, it's not an easy task, in the situations, given the situations, it's sometimes, from what I know and understand, about, cases and things that you've dealt with like that, it's probably very difficult to, but the passion, I'm sure probably, like you said, the passion comes through. You're so passionate about wanting to make it right and have it fair and tell those stories. But, it's gotta be difficult.
It's a lot. I think criminal law, for anybody who practices criminal law, it's a lot. I think for defense attorneys, and I'll say this, and they're going to be surprised I say this. My client is justice, right? My victim is not technically my client. I always listen to my victims. I always talk to my victims. I always work things out. I always say we're a team. They can have a client that they are giving the best advice that they think is the best advice. And their client says, no, I don't want to do that. And they could end up having to go forward with something that they maybe don't think is a good idea, but there they are. And they're that person that jurors might go, I don't know how they could defend them, right? And I say all the time, they have a right to a defense. And, in the back of my head, I might be thinking, I'm thinking the same thing, but it's not up to them. And like you said, when I have victims that get on the stand, part of me feels like this is going to fix nothing, right? And that's the sobering reality, that it may help them to be able to tell their story. It may help them to know that their abuser is incarcerated, if that's where things end up. It may help them to be able to say, you hurt me and you thought I wouldn't tell, but now I'm going to tell, right? And I have somebody that's going to help me tell. I think that is powerful, right? I think guilty pleas can be powerful when a defendant comes in and says, yep, you're not lying, right? That thing that I did, that you're saying I did. And I give credit to people that do that, right? Because I think that's powerful for victims. But we're not fixing it. So sometimes when I walk victims up there, I'm thinking this is a horrible spot for you. And I feel like anybody in that room can feel that. I think the judge feels that. I think the jurors feel that. I know I feel it. I think defense feels it. It's a horrible spot for that person to be. So it's a tough thing to be in that world all the time, I think.
Yeah. There's reliving that.
Yeah. And knowing you can't fix it for them, right? I might be able to.
Can't take it back.
Yeah.
Can't take it back.
I can give a sentence and maybe, through therapy or through talking, you've been able to get to a point where you feel as though that's a number you're comfortable with or something you're comfortable with. And if so, if those things align, great. I'm happy to give that to you. But it is not lost on me that I am not coming in with a white hat and fixing your life. I'm not. The hope is I can keep it from happening to someone else, or that you telling your story and them being punished for it will deter, or them being punished will help them rehabilitate. Those are the goals of our criminal justice system. But it's not lost on me that it's not a good day when most people are coming to see me.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
And just like a liar, stop breaking the law, asshole.
Yeah, I'm sure there's many defense attorneys that feel that way, that they're just fed up.
Right?
Yeah.
Seriously, it's sometimes you think about, again, just back to that movie, but a lot of times it's it's just common sense.
Yeah.
It's like the simplest things. I feel like sometimes people lack a lot of common sense.
Or
on the surface,
act like they do.
Surface level, yeah. Or act like they do.
Yeah. Conveniently lose their common sense.
All of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy. Oh my God. Well, hey, listen, I'm really grateful that we finally connected on this and
Me too.
And got to have a real conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And it's not often that somebody probably gets to ask you a lot of questions, and so you got to talk about the things that you're super passionate about, and plus we got the new chairs with the new backs here, and they swivel.
They do.
Everybody's been asking for chairs with backs. What's the verdict here? What do you think?
I like it. I think I'm digging it. I like it. Again, I appreciate having a conversation about the human side behind prosecutors, behind law enforcement. I'm not saying every prosecutor does the things that they do because of the same reasons I do. I'm one of many, right? We're reflective of your society. That's the goal. We are servants to you. If listening to this makes anybody feel more comfortable talking to a DA or a deputy attorney general or a police officer, then I feel great about that. If it quells the fear a little bit, if you have a question, go talk to your prosecutors, go talk to your local detectives, right? Most of them would be willing to answer your questions, and it'll help you from going on the internet and coming up with the worst answer. And we're people too, and we took an oath because we want to help you.
Yeah, and you're here to help. Like, that's the other thing I think that people don't understand, right? Like, you're not a scary person.
No, I don't.
You know what I mean?
So.
Like, yeah, right? Like you know, it's just we're all humans, and I feel like a lot of times people like you and or people, law enforcement, you know, God love them all. Like, a lot of times they get a bad rap. You know, because yes, there's some bad ones out there, but there's also a lot of good ones.
Nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop.
Right.
Nobody hates a bad prosecutor more than a good prosecutor, because all the things that I'm trying to build, all the good favor that I'm trying to build, I teach at our police academy, gets thrown away the second one person ruins it, right? And then we're, like we said before, cashing a check that we didn't write. So talk to people. If that's anything I could say, it's talk to people. And we're here because we as a group made these laws. Like, if we as a society decided laws weren't necessary, I wouldn't be here, right? I'd be working at Cooper's or doing something else. I wouldn't be here. We're here to serve you guys. You guys made us, so we're here to serve you guys. We're a part of you. We're a part of your community. Talk to us.
Yeah, just have a real conversation.
Absolutely. I love a real conversation.
Yeah, like this. Like, it's a real, you know, like,
yes.
A lot of times I feel, and for somebody like you, you know, people may not see you except for in your role.
Yeah.
In your job.
Absolutely.
Right? In a courtroom. So people only have maybe a one-sided opinion of somebody like you, or same thing with a cop, right? You get pulled over, like, you don't know, like, that cop has a family.
Yeah.
He may have kids. He has a wife, and it's like you said earlier in the day, like, they're out there running to the problem and literally risking their life every single day. And it's like, you don't know anything about them, and like, you just immediately, they're just bad.
Yep.
Like,
and it's two-way street, right? Like, you may have had horrible interactions with cops, and I don't know that. Or you might have had horrible interactions, I'm going to say it from my perspective, with prosecutors, and I don't know that. Tell me. If you want to come in and say, listen, I don't believe in this system, I don't think you actually want to help me, okay. But just give me an opportunity to have that conversation with you. If at the end of that conversation, you still think I don't want to help you, and you still don't want me to help you, okay. But at least you let me talk to you about it. And at least you know exactly who I am or where I'm coming from on the issue. Like, give me an opportunity. Hopefully we can get to that place where people give each other those opportunities again.
That's where we're going to leave it. We're going to leave it at opportunity, because I think that's so important. It really is. Just be able to, like you said, even if, you know, they just come in and just to be able to just at least just have the conversation, have the debate. And if, you know, after that, you know, then you disagree, well, then part ways. But we'll end there on opportunity. Angela Sperrazza on the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door Studio. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on The Stacks.